So imagine it's your first time going to IKEA. It's a weird looking place and it has a bunch of stuff you don't understand and it's confusing. The place is huge. Everyone looks like they've just walked out of Skyrim and everything is also written in some different language. It's like a otaku taking a vacation in Japan and then realizing there's no subtitles, which then brings us to our main character Subaru, who while grabbing some food in his local convenience store was then teleported into an unknown fantasy world. Then while roaming the city marketplace ends up in a confrontation with the local thugs in an alleyway. This is where he then meets a strange silver-haired half-elf named Amelia, along with her familiar named Puck. She then confronts thugs, making them flee faster than a Trump supporter in a Democratic convention. Amelia then tends to his wounds and mentions she is looking for something important to her and she is in a hurry. Subaru then offers to help her look for it, and while on this search they both end up in a small hut where they were both killed by an assassin. This is where Subaru finds out after his last dying breath that he was revived. He then figures out that he is in a previous experience before all that occurred, and that when he found Amelia, she didn't remember who he was in the slightest. While skipping all that after to avoid spoilers, he eventually acquires that item that Amelia was looking for and then discovers these checkpoints, which we can guess happens after he slept or when the curse feels like he has fulfilled the duty. He then finds himself in Amelia's estate where he meets the two maids Rem and Ram, the master of the house Roswell, and Beatrice, the guardian of the house's library. So this dying and rewinding cycle, if you don't know already, is the main element of the plot that is meant to keep you on your toes. You don't know if when he dies again that he will reach the desired checkpoint or will end up in a previous checkpoint. And while we're on the topic of death, he dies in many horrible different ways. Some include him getting stabbed, gutted, or his limbs being ripped off. But even after all of that, he's fated to reborn at some point in time, still remembering not only the pain and feeling of death, but holding on to the memories he shared with all the characters that they will never recall. This, as you can imagine, can have a negative effect on a person, which did cause him to lose his sanity on multiple occasions, which again builds onto his character as the show progresses. So first let's talk about the characters, because they're in many ways believable and relatable characters. So let's talk about Subaru first, a character who went from a really likable character to a very selfish one and then back to a really likable one. So like I already said before, he goes through these rewinds that are resulted by his death, many of these resulting from his attempts to change the future for the people around him, but Subaru sees these as painful reminders that he's failed, even when he still doesn't know why he's been sent to this world in the first place. So mostly during the second half of the series, he goes through this phase where he feels like all the people he saved, you know, from a horrible future owe him something in return for his efforts. Now this is what I mean by a relatable character, because if I was in his shoes, I would feel the same exact way. If I were put in a strange world where you're trying to find meaning or purpose in this world, then it's perfectly reasonable. But where he messes up is that because he got caught in his emotions, he also caused many of the people he saved before to die again. He's a character that lost track of his goals at the same time, but after a few kicks in the ass, he realizes his purposes and reasons to live. Then there is best girl contestant number 1, Amelia. So she, along with other candidates, are competing for the throne of the kingdom. She's good-natured, good-willed, and is fighting for the throne for good reasons, but is overall just a shy and scared girl. She has to bear the misfortune of resembling the infamous witch Saltella, who brought great terror not only to the kingdom, but the entire world itself. But despite all of that, still wants to prove she is worthy enough for the throne. Now to be honest, I don't hate Amelia's character, but is annoying nonetheless, mainly because of her relationship with Subaru. She doesn't try to understand Subaru's feelings enough. She almost puts him on a leash so she can keep tabs on him, all the while not knowing what he has done for her. Now I can call Amelia the damsel in distress type, but because of her abilities of not only being a spirit user and a novice of healing magic, it is also perfectly reasonable to consider the attacks against her as something unprecedented due to her good nature, and she'll never really expect violence to be thrown at her, or at least for people to act on that hate against her. This could be because of her goodwill and wanting to see good in everyone else. That's why I don't necessarily think she hates Subaru in any way. She's just unable not only to show her true feelings while also not understanding Subaru's feelings of despair and sorrow. Then there's the best girl contestant number 2, who is honestly the clear winner to everyone, which is Rem. Now in the beginning, Rem and her sister sister, Ram, are the mysterious maids who spoke the same, and the only difference between them is the color of their hair and whether or not they have a horn. But unlike Rem, Ram becomes the background character of the series, carrying no purpose after the first half. Rem also, unlike her sister, Ram, still has her horn. Although Ram is more skilled and arguably would have been a better demon than her sister Rem, the removal of her horn by the cultists rendered her powerless of her demon nature. So Rem carries this unreasonable amount of guilt that she should have lost her horn except for her sister. This is because of their parents always holding Rem at a higher regard and comparing the both of them to each other, and you know, Rem tend to be the worst out of the two. Most of Rem's guilt also stems from the fact that when Ram lost her horn, she was relieved to be at least better at her sister at something. But Rem later realizes that it wasn't her fault when Subaru helps her realize that, along with saving her during her demonic rampage against the mob beast. This is where Ram's loyalty to Subaru starts. Since Subaru understands her feelings and was her hero when she needed him the most, she fell for him. She's also always by his side, so she understands his feelings more than anyone else, especially Amelia. Now, there isn't much I can say other than that. She's happy with just being around Subaru and doesn't push him like Amelia. Now, there are other characters I could mention, but many of them don't develop much. What I will touch on is the candidates and their representatives, which seem like their only reasons to act is to move forward their political gain or out of compensation for their actions. This at times isn't a bad thing because it also helps Subaru realize his original goals. So they almost force Subaru to develop as a character, while helping him realize that he must work for the things he needs to accomplish. The world doesn't owe him anything, and Subaru had to realize this quickly or else he would have suffered longer than he should have. So I want to talk about the pacing of the story and the events that took place, because there are minor gripes I have with it. First is the lack of world building. The show doesn't really explain too much about the world around Subaru, and everything is always an unwelcome surprise. So for example, the introduction of the witch cultists during the later part of the series proves that anything and everything bad could happen to Subaru. Even if you as the viewer think Subaru can handle himself, the show proves you wrong quickly. I would at least like to know the scale of power in this world, because it seems like at any moment something can end the world entirely, just cuz. Secondly is the lack of real backstory for anyone of the characters we care about. The only exception to this argument is Rem and Ram, but everyone else sort of does things. I know this most likely might be a time constraint, but it goes along with the world building aspect too. Where's the backstory for the candidates? Because everyone else just seems to be doing it for the throne. What are their plans after getting the throne? Then you have Amelia herself, which for all we know can be an actual danger to society based on how people treat her. This all can be solved with a season 2 of course, but seeing how there's no confirmation as of yet, it makes me very worried. So what do I think about the series as a whole? Well, it's like a bag of Jolly Ranchers candy. When sharing them, you notice a lot of people are choosing the wrong flavor, but you prefer the flavor that always will be considered the winner no matter what. You and those people argue and you realize that a lot of people like bad flavors and you're outnumbered. But even after all of the arguing of which flavors you like, you realize you are all eating from the same bag. The fact that everyone is arguing over flavors means that people like the candy itself, even if the one who is holding the bag is a bit unfair at times. After that weird visual analogy, I hope you understand what I meant is that the show is fucking fantastic. The story has enough suspense and action in it that you will tear your hair out after each episode ends. The characters are all relatable in some way for everyone and are interesting to watch. The ongoing mystery keeps you thinking and almost makes you invested in this strange world. Then there's the soundtrack's opening and ending themes that will never get old. I love this series and I wish I could support it more than I already have. You will not be disappointed at all with this series so far. So what are you waiting for? Go watch this anime from zero.